In this section, we'll talk about another very important and fundamental concept in Maya, the transform node. What is a transform node? A transform node, you can understand it as a node in the Maya scene that represents an object's translate, rotate, and scale information. So first, let's create a node together. In Maya scene, without select anything, press Ctrl+G on your keyboard. This way, we've created a transform node. For those who have some basic knowledge of Maya operations, you're probably very familiar with this hotkey. Ctrl+G is just group. If we select nothing, it's like creating an empty group. Let's look at the node we just created. This node is named Node1 by default. We can see it has translate, rotate, and scale attributes, as well as a visibility attribute. This information, translate, rotate, scale, I'm sure you are already very familiar with. We introduced it in the previous sections. Now if we select it and go into Attribute Editor, press Ctrl+A, we will see more information here. There's one piece of information I want you to pay close attention to, which is the word to the left of the name. See, this word is transform. Now pay attention here. In the Attribute Editor, the word to the left of the name represents the selected node's specific node type within Maya. For this node, its type is transform. Now some of you might have a question. When you've used Maya before, you've probably also seen this translate, rotate, scale interface, including when we create, for example, polygon model, or when we create a curve, or when we create a NURBS surface. We see this. So what's the difference between them and this empty group I just created? Let's create a few to compare. So here under create, I'll first create a cube, then create a NURBS sphere, and then create a curve. I'll move them to different positions and delete their history. First, let's select this polygon cube and compare. Looking at the channel box, it looks like there's no difference from our empty group. If we press Ctrl+A to go to the Attribute Editor, as I just mentioned, to the left of the name is the selected node's Maya node type. It's still a transform node. Comparing it to our Node1 from before is still the same. So what's the difference between them? Obviously, they are visually different. One is completely invisible in the scene. The other is displayed as a cube shape. Is it because our transform node has different types? No, it's not. The difference between them, we can actually see a difference if we go back to the channel box. The difference is under this shape section. We can see that under our polygon cube, there is something called p-cube shape 1. But under our empty group Node1, there is no information. Also, if we go into the model's component mode and we select one of its vertices, we can also see the object we have selected now is no longer the p-cube 1 we were just dealing with. If we select it again, you will see the thing we have selected now is called p-cube shape 1. It's a shape node for our current cube. Let's switch to our Attribute Editor again, Ctrl+A. In these tabs, at the top, we see p-cube 1, and there's also something called p-cube shape 1. Let's click on this to take a look. Again, just as I said, to the left of the name is this node's Maya type. Now you'll notice this node type has changed. It's no longer transform. Compared to this one, it's no longer transform. It's called mesh. So what type is mesh? Mesh is actually what we usually refer to as a polygon model. By the same logic, let's look at the NURBS surface. You can see here, its shape node also has a different type called NURBS surface. Similarly, our curve here is NURBS curve. Okay, let's look at the outliner next. In the outliner, they just look like different icons, so they look like different types. But actually, if we go to Display and turn on the Shapes option, you will see that these last three objects all have a plus sign. Let's click Open this plus sign. You will see that the icon to the left of its original name now becomes identical to the one in front of our empty group. By looking at the Attribute Editor, we can also tell they are the same node type. They are all transform nodes. And the things we were just talking about, whether it's mesh, NURBS surface, or NURBS curve, is actually under our transform node. There is a tree structure. It's underneath it. You should have some understanding of this relationship by now. We talked about parent relationship in a previous section. In fact, the shape node and the transform node also have a parent relationship here. The shape node is the child of our transform node. So for example, if we delete p cube shape 1, you will see our original transform node still exists. Now if you compare these two nodes, you'll find there's no difference between them. Don't be fooled by its name. Even though this thing is called p cube 1, we can also rename it to null 2 or NURB sphere 2. The name is meaningless, it's just a name. No matter what we name it, it will not change the fundamental type of this node. So anything with these translate, rotate, scale, and visibility attributes is in fact a transform node. The reason it can display different things in the scene is because under its hierarchy, we've added a shape node as its child. We can use a real-world example to help you understand this concept. What is a transform node equivalent to in the real world? It's equivalent to a location. For example, we say Tom. This person, Tom, his location in the world is, for example, in a certain country, a certain city, a certain street, a certain building, a certain floor, a certain room in front of a certain desk. This is a very specific location. Through this location, we can find this position anywhere in the world. This is basically the transform node. But what appears at this location could be a person, it could be a dog. That's not certain. The thing that determines what appears at this location is what we call the shape node. In 3D, this corresponds to, for example, a polygon model, or a NURBS surface, or a NURBS curve, or a locator. From this, we can also know that a shape node cannot exist on its own. It must be placed under a transform node as its child in order to exist. This is also easy to understand in real life. When we talk about, say, Tom, what does he look like? It must ultimately trace back to a specific location in the real world. Only then can he truly exist in this world. Once he doesn't have this world location, he cannot truly exist in this world. That was our brief introduction to Maya's transform node and shape node. As I said at the beginning, this is a very fundamental and very important concept in Maya. We will use it constantly in our future learning and practice. Including when we learn more complex rigging, we will also need to constantly analyze the relationship between transform node and shape node. For now, you might not have a deep understanding of this concept yet. But I just hope that as you start learning rigging, you have a high-level preliminary understanding of the relationship between transform and shape nodes. Later on, we will continuously reinforce and deepen our understanding of it. See you in the next video.